My twin sister fell in love with my husband and killed me with her family. She pretended to be me and sat on my bed shyly waiting for my husband to sleep with me. My parents also look forward to her being able to play with my husband and thousands of children and grandchildren. The husband pushed the door in, and my sister blushed and stepped forward to give him wide clothes. She didn't know that the man in front of her was even more terrifying than her. When I floated in the air and watched Pei push the door in, his iron armor stained with blood and dust. After 2 months of not seeing him, he has lost a little weight, but he is also more handsome. My sister Song Rushu shook her dress nervously, then stood up from the bed with her heart crossed, walked to Pei and said softly, "Your Majesty, I will serve you to take a bath in wide clothes." Her voice was almost the same as mine. But our voices were originally different. 7 days ago, when I was dying, she said to me, "Ollie, I have suffered a lot to change this voice, do you think I resemble you?" Naturally, it is similar, because a cautious person like Pei did not hear that the wife in front of him had changed. Pei took off his iron armor and opened his arms. Song Rushu blushed, and a pair of delicate and soft white hands went to untie Pei's belt. She was not born white, but in order to match my skin color, she took 3 white medicines every day for the past 2 years, and she did not bask in the sun all day, and finally she was as white as me. Not only her voice and skin, but even my demeanor she learned 100%. She said she spent 2 whole years preparing. She said she was bound to win. Pei looked down at her, "You changed incense." Song Rushu was stunned for a moment and then said softly, "Well, what does the emperor think of this fragrance?" Pei frowned, "It's heavy, it's not as good as you used before, replace it." Song Rushu hurriedly said, "Yes." Pei turned around and walked towards the bath. Song Rushu hurriedly followed, his eyes filled with joy. She was naturally happy that she was not discovered. "I don't want to go to the bathtub because I know what will happen next." Pei joined the military at the age of 12, and now he has been in the military for 13 years, and his blood is fierce, and the bed is different from ordinary people. Although I don't know if he has had a woman serving him closely in the past 2 months, every time he comes back from home for many days, it must be unbearable for me. He didn't care about me, but he was careless. "Your parents sent you here to please the king, but I don't see you being more attentive." Later, my grandmother persuaded me to welcome him, and I listened to my grandmother's words to make him less violent. But in fact, it was Song Rushu who was originally going to marry Pei. But when Pei returned to Tiandu from the north with a large army that year, he had 5 human heads hanging from his saddle. Although he told the Son of Heaven that he encountered bandits on the way, and was beheaded, anyone with a discerning eye knew that these 5 heads represented the 5 families that impeached the Pei family back then. Our Song family is one of them. The Pei family was bleeding due to impeachment, and Pei naturally wanted to retaliate. So the 5 families offered rare jewelry and peerless beauties, hoping that he could calm their anger. Song Rushu is the peerless beauty. She was worried that she would be tortured to death by Pei and begged her parents not to send her. Her parents loved her and finally asked me to marry Pei instead of Song Rushu. Although Song Rushu and I were twins, when we were born, the sorcerer asserted that one of us would destroy the Song family. So I was considered a disaster star after being born. They were ready to drown me. My mother couldn't bear it and I survived after being forced by my life, and I was imprisoned in the deepest courtyard of the Song family, only to let my grandmother take care of me. Since then, outsiders only know that the eldest daughter held in the palm of the Song family is Song Rushu, but they don't know that there is another daughter named Song Ollie, who is growing up in the narrow yard like grass. The Song family didn't name me. Ollie was obtained by my grandmother for me. Grandma said that on the day she came to the courtyard with me, the pear blossoms in the courtyard bloomed just right, which was the most beautiful she had ever seen, so she called me Ollie. Ollie, Ollie, responded to my short life. My soul floated uncontrollably to the edge of the bath. Pei had already entered the pool, and he was sitting against the edge of the pool in the pervasive heat. His body was covered with hideous and interlaced old scars, and Song Rushu hid his frightened eyes when he saw it. She was afraid. I think it's ridiculous, she didn't show mercy at all when she killed me. I floated to Peiji's side and waved my hand in front of his eyes. Although I have always been a little afraid of him, now I hope he can sense me or find out that Song Rushu is not me. My body is still buried in the garden of the Song mansion, bitten by ants. If he can help me avenge my love for 3 years, I am grateful to him. If he doesn't want to, it's good to dig up my body and burn it. I like warm places and don't want to lie in the dark forever. Unfortunately, he didn't feel me. He closed his eyes and recuperated. Song Rushu calmed down, bit his rosy lips, and prepared to go into the pool. Peiji suddenly opened his eyes and looked at her. Why did the king look at me? Song Rushu asked. Peiji said, I heard that during the time when the king was away, did you go back to the Song family? Song Rushu immediately knelt down. Yes, my mother was sick, so I went back for a few days and asked the king to forgive me. When I mentioned my mother, I still couldn't help but feel a pain in my heart. At the beginning, she forced the Song family to die in order for me to survive, but when Song Rushu wanted to be with Peiji, she tricked me back and asked Song Rushu to poison me. I want to ask her why. Why did you love me but you killed me again? Peiji listened to Song Rushu's explanation and said, even if your mother is sick, it doesn't hurt to go back. I was stunned. Peiji would never say such a thing to me before. On the day of the newlywed bridal chamber, he said that I was given to him by my parents, so I belonged to him, and could no longer have myself from now on. Life is his, and death is his. Suffer from him and bear his anger. That night, he pinched my face and said coldly, even if you are indeed pitiful, don't think that the king will pity you half. He said and did it. In the past 3 years of marriage, he has not spoken much to me except for the bed, let alone let me go home. Thank you for your kindness. After Song Rushu finished speaking softly, he got up and walked to Peiji, took a cotton towel, and prepared to wipe his body. Suddenly there was a voice of Peiji's attendant outside, Your Majesty, the Emperor summons urgently. Got it. Peiji got up and left. Song Rushu looked at Peiji's back and stomped his feet, hating that it was not the right time for the emperor to summon him urgently. Song Rushu returned to the room, and turned around happily. My former maid Yi-er came in with tea at this time. Congratulations to the lady for successfully hiding it from the emperor. Yi-er was sent by the Song family after the death of my grandmother, who raised me 2 years ago. At that time, I thought my family loved me, but now I know that it was for Song Rushu to prepare in advance instead of me. They planned to kill me 2 years ago. Song Rushu pulled Yi-er. Smell, what does my smell smell? Yi-er smelled it carefully. Miss, you have no other smell except pear fragrance. Song Rushu was a little uneasy, really. But the emperor only smelled the agar wood I used to use for a moment when he got closer. I don't understand how Peiji is not good at incense on weekdays, how he smelled the difference in Song Rushu's body all of a sudden. Yi-er said, maybe the agar wood you used before is excellent, the fragrance cannot dissipate for a while. I think if you smoke it for a few more days, it will be completely covered. It makes sense. Song Rushu lit a few more pear incense, then took out a little mun and pricked it with a needle. Forever in hell, there will be no reincarnation. The villain has my name written on it, Song Ali. I think the sorcerer who taught her to prick the villain must be a mediocre talent, otherwise she would have stabbed me several times, but I didn't feel it at all. After pricking for a while, she spoke to the villain, Sister, don't feel unhappy, you have had the monarch for 3 years. When I looked at him just now, he was really half like a god, but he was much better than the nerd my parents found for me, no, better than all the men in the world. After I married Peiji, she could no longer live as Song Rushu. Her parents sent her to a hidden place and recruited a scholar to be her husband. But now I don't know what the fate of that scholar is, I think he was killed like me. She twisted the villain's head, you should thank me, if it weren't for me, how could you marry the king, and enjoy his people and his glory and wealth? Now, all this is just a return to its original owner. Once she was afraid that Peiji would let me marry instead. Later, she saw that I had been by Peiji's side for a year, and was living well, and Peiji walked into the center of the court step by step. She fell in love again. I can't eat, I can't sleep, and I'm crazy. Year, how often do you sleep with Ollie? Song Rushu asked again. Year replied, except for the emperor's long travel, as long as he stays with the second lady in the palace. Song Rushu glared at Year. So what, 3 years of love, it's not that there is no son, and a half-daughter, it can be seen that the emperor just uses her to relieve boredom. She was right, Peiji told me, don't think about having his children. So I've been taking medicine, and I don't want to give birth to a child with the same fate as me. For the night was getting darker, Peiji had not yet returned, Song Rushu fell asleep first and asked Yeer to wake her up when Peiji came back. I floated out of the room and sat on the roof looking in the direction of the emperor's palace. A few days ago, I heard that the emperor was seriously ill, and Peiji was summoned to the palace at this time. At that time, he will be above 10,000 people, and I don't know if he will do anything to the Song family. In the past few years, he has been ready to move. The Song family and the other four families thought that sending mountains of treasures and beauties would allow him to ignore his past grievances, but how could these compare with the hatred in his heart? I went back to the Song family that day, and I wanted to tell them about Peiji's thoughts. But before I could speak, they poisoned me. The moon was gradually setting, the east was slightly white, the sun was coming out, and I had to hide back in my room. I'm a ghost, I'm afraid of the sun. I'm afraid of my favorite sunshine. 5 Peiji came back at noon, and Song Rushu prepared a table of good dishes waiting for him. I wilted and hid in the corner, and I was hungry. I had no appetite in the first half-month before I died, and I felt uncomfortable, and wanted to vomit when I ate something, and then I arrived at Song's house and drank the poisoned wine Song Rushu handed me before I could eat. Therefore, I am also a starving ghost. Song Rushu didn't eat much when Peiji waited for Peiji and others these days, but now Peiji is by her side, and her appetite has improved. Peiji didn't move his chopsticks, but looked at her, looking at her, twisting his fingers lightly, which was his habitual action when thinking. Could it be that he found something? Why didn't you eat? Song Rushu asked. Peiji did not answer but said, you seem to have a good appetite. Song Rushu immediately realized that something was wrong with her, she should have learned from my quiet and docile appearance. She put down her chopsticks and lowered her head, let the emperor laugh. Peiji said again, I heard that you were unwell last month, and the imperial doctor in the palace will come to diagnose and treat you in time. A hint of panic flashed in Song Rushu's eyes. I knew she was worried that she would be seen by the imperial doctor. After all, although the appearance can be changed, but the subtleties on the inside cannot be changed. And I am also puzzled, I haven't died last month, and it is obvious that I am the one who said I was unwell. Although I have been sick several times in the past 3 years, it was the Pei family's own medical officer who diagnosed and treated me, and now he asked the imperial doctor to come. Why does he care so much about my body? Although Song Rushu was reluctant to diagnose and treat her, she did not dare to disobey Peiji, so she kept asking Yeer what symptoms I had last month. Yeer recalled, last month. The second lady was fine, she just couldn't eat, and she wanted to vomit after eating some meat dishes, but overall it didn't matter. Song Rushu looked solemn when he heard this. What you said, why does it look like she is pregnant? I was also shocked, but how could it be that I had not stopped taking the medicine? Yeer comforted, don't worry, eldest lady, even if the second lady is pregnant, she is fine, she is already dead, and there is no evidence of death. Yes, I am dead. Even if I am pregnant, the fetus is only 2 months old, and even if the body is dug up, who can tell that she is pregnant? 6. The imperial doctor arrived at the mansion on time, took Song Rushu's pulse, and went to the side with Peiji. I floated over and heard the imperial doctor say to Peiji, the lady is not pregnant. It turned out that Peiji really suspected that I was pregnant. That's why he cares. If I am really pregnant with his child, he can also get rid of it as soon as possible. Peiji said lightly. The emperor doesn't have to worry, the lady's pulse is neither floating nor sinking calmly, and her body is healthy. The imperial doctor thought it was Pei Ji who wanted a child. Pei Ji's eyes moved. Is she healthy? Yes, healthy. The imperial doctor replied surely. Pei Ji looked at Song Rushu in the distance, and then ordered the retainers beside him, go to the Song mansion to send a message, and the king will accompany the lady back to his hometown tomorrow. In the 3 years I have been with him, he has never taken the initiative to go to the Song mansion. Even when my parents came, he didn't receive much. But he probably didn't find anything otherwise with his way of doing things. Once he found out that the Song mansion had deceived him, he would have let the Song family leave no chickens and dogs at this time. Song Rushu was very uneasy when he knew that he was going to the Song mansion tomorrow. The emperor has only seen me for a long time, did he see that I am not Song Ali? But he quickly calmed down. No, he didn't see it, otherwise he would have taken the head on my neck. But it must be what the imperial doctor just said that made June suspicious. Yeah, you should ask someone to inquire now. She is smart. The descendants of a famous family like the Song family will naturally not have mediocre talents. 7 early the next morning, the carriage set off for the Song mansion. The spring sun was a little hot, and I could only hide in Pei Ji's shadow and float towards the carriage. He was tall, and I was not half burned in his shadow. I never thought I would need such protection from him one day. When I arrived at the Song mansion, my parents had already been waiting at the door, and when they saw Pei Ji, they immediately greeted me with courtesy. My mother also took Song Rushu's hand, with worry in her eyes. I was a little sad. In my memory, my mother had never looked at me like this. Even on the day I married Pei Ji, she knew that I might die, but she was still happy in her eyes. I was happy that Song Rushu could survive. Unfortunately, I just couldn't understand it at that time. I always thought that my mother had also fought for me, and she must have loved me too. Mother, I am willing to let my sister and I exchange it. Why do you have to kill me? I asked as I floated beside my mother. My mother couldn't hear me. When she was alive, she ignored my pleas, so how could she miss me when I died? The only thing she had in her eyes was Song Rushu. My father implicitly asked Pei Ji why he and Song Rushu came. After all, the current situation was urgent, and Pei Ji should be in the palace. Pei Ji said that it was just the right spring day, and the garden scenery of the Song family was a must-have in Tiandu City, so he came to enjoy the scenery. I know he is by no means for this purpose, but I still cheer up. Because my body is buried in the garden. My parents probably haven't moved my body away yet. After all, the Song family is a big family, and there are many people, and they will be discovered if they are not careful. Pei Ji swam slowly in the garden, and Song Rushu followed him nervously. My mother patted her hand gently, as if signaling her not to worry. Dad asked Pei Ji about the recent situation in the DPRK, but Pei Ji did not answer, and picked a begonia flower and put it on Song Rushu's hair. Song Rushu's eyes lit up suddenly, and then he lowered his head shyly. My parents were also laughing, and they breathed a sigh of relief. Pei Ji used to give me flowers. He didn't like me very much, but I was one of his objects, and he could have some fun when he had nothing to do. Or dress me up more to his liking before enjoying it, and he can enjoy it more. Thank you, Your Majesty. Song Rushu said softly. Pei Ji smiled and continued to walk forward. In front of me is the place where I was buried, and my body was under that patch of grass. But when I floated over, I couldn't feel my body again. I saw that the soil was newly turned over and the body was removed, which should have been done last night. They still didn't dare to gamble after all. Pei Ji crawled out of the pile of dead people, and they were afraid that he would notice something. But where will I be now? Suddenly, the wind blew, and countless pear blossoms were blown over, and there was a cold fragrance in the wind. Pear blossoms snow first, half spring break. Pei Ji looked in the direction the pear blossoms were flying, and at the end of the garden, there was a small yard, and there was a pear tree in the courtyard, and the white flowers were blooming just right. Pei Ji walked over there, and his father and mother stopped him, and said that there was nothing to see over there. Peiji said that he had never seen such a pear blossom with a clear moon and wind, and it didn't hurt to go and see it. Song Rushu immediately pretended to be dizzy. "Your Majesty, it's too hot, I am a little unwell, I want to rest." Peiji saw that her face was pale and sweat was on her forehead, so he hesitated and left with her. I looked at my parents' expressions and knew that my body must be in that yard. 8 in the room, my mother accompanied Song Rushu to rest, and my father took Peiji to the quiet house for tea. "Mother, is that disaster star really pregnant?" Song Rushu asked. Mother nodded. "Last night we cut open her belly, and it was indeed there." Hearing this, my stomach hurt, as if my soul had also been cut open. I didn't expect that I was actually pregnant. After taking so much medicine, I thought my body should not be able to have any more children. Fortunately, we did it first, otherwise when she showed her pregnancy, I wouldn't be able to pretend to be her. Song Rushu was happy. The mother nodded. "It is also excellent to see the emperor today, you must seize the opportunity quickly, and when you have a child, even if the emperor sees something, it will pass for the sake of the child." Ye also said, "The slave also found someone to ask the imperial doctor for a lot of money, and the imperial doctor said that the emperor just asked the young lady how you are doing, nothing else." Song Rushu was a little unhappy. "Then he doesn't care about me, he cares about the disaster star." Mother comforted her. "Rushu, Ali is dead, and you will be the only one in the future." Song Rushu smiled a little. "Mother, my daughter feels so happy now." My mother looked at her with a smile. "My good daughter is happy." I didn't look any more, I floated out. But where can I go? When I was alive, my mother's family couldn't go back, and my husband's family couldn't be integrated. After death, I can't be freed. 9 at night, Song Rushu waited for Peiji like last night. Peiji was still drinking in the wind pavilion. If it were before, I would be relieved, he drank his, and I would be able to sleep well when I was drunk. Now I feel strange, he clearly gave Song Rushu flowers during the day, why didn't he come at night? I floated to the wind pavilion, he was sitting there, holding a cup but not drinking, and with him was his retainer Zhou Fang. Zhou Fang said that today Peiji went to the Song family, and staged harmony between husband and wife in front of so many people, and the DPRK must think that the Pei and Song families are one, so that the Song family will be isolated by the opponents of the Pei family, and will not pose any threat. It turned out that this was the reason why Peiji went to the Song family, and I thought he saw some clues to Song Rushu. I thought too much. Zhou Fang was still talking about the affairs of the court, but Peiji was a little absent-minded. Zhou Fang also saw it. Does the Lord have something on his mind? Peiji said, "A few days ago, the king had a dream, dreaming that the lady and a child were standing on the other side of the river, and a pear blossom was blooming on the other side." Zhou Fang smiled and said, "I think it is a dream every day and night, and the Lord wants to really have a home." Peiji shook his head. On the day of the death of the king's parents and family, the king also dreamed that they were standing on the other side of the river, and they couldn't hear it. Zhou Fang was busy comforting. "Don't be sad and worry, and the lady happens to be in the house at the moment, it's just a dream." Peiji took a sip of wine. "Maybe it's just a dream." After a moment of silence, he said again, "You sent someone to keep an eye on the Song family. It is unusual for her to be unharmed after she went back for a few days, and the Song family seems to be hiding something today." After Zhou let him go, I sat down opposite Peiji and looked at him quietly. If it weren't for my soul now, I would never dare to look at him like this. He just said that he dreamed of me standing under a pear blossom tree with a child, whether he had a sense when the child and I died. Do you care about me too? The night wind blew slowly, there were insects screaming happily, the moon shadow was tilting, Keiji drank the wine in the glass, I had no shadow. After a long time, he finally got up and walked towards Song Rushu's yard. Song Rushu was already asleep, leaning on the edge of the bed with a smile on her lips. She is not good at waiting for people. When waiting for someone, especially when waiting for someone who is a life or death, you don't dare to fall asleep at all. Yi'er wanted to wake her up, but Peiji waved his hand and said softly, let her sleep. Song Rushu is really a lucky star. You see, even if she dresses up as me, she can immediately have what I didn't get. 10. I want to tell Peiji that I am buried under the pear tree of the Song family. But I don't know how to enter his dream. At this moment he is asleep, his brows furrowed, as if he is in a nightmare. 2. I have seen him many times like this in the past 3 years, and sometimes he will cry in his dreams. When I tried to wake him up, he would immediately wake up and grab my neck hard. When he saw that it was me, he let go. At that time, he told me not to touch him while he was asleep, because he would kill me. I was timid for a long time, until I heard later that Peiji was often assassinated in the northern border, so he slept restlessly. I thought about it, holding his face with both hands and pressing my forehead against his forehead, maybe I could enter his dream. But it was still useless, and he didn't even move his eyelids. In the past few days, I have also tried to find other people and other ghosts, but I seem to be trapped next to Song Rushu. As long as I stay away from her, I will be dragged back by an invisible force. I don't know what else she did to me. Am I going to be tied up like this forever? When I was about to look up and go out, Peiji suddenly hugged me and turned over. Obviously I had no substance, but he seemed to be able to hold me. Then he woke up too. He looked at the empty embrace, and after a moment of stunning, his throat moved, and his breathing slowly stabilized from heavy. Then I heard him say, Peiji, don't be fooled by her. In our marriage, he has always been sober. Even though he seemed to want to carve me into the bone and blood for so many nights, when the east glimmered, he restored to Peiji, the king of Bajan, and I was still the daughter of the Song family. Before dawn on the 11th, someone came to the palace again, saying that the emperor had suddenly woken up. Peiji entered the palace and soon after the death knell came. The emperor passed away, and the whole country was deeply saddened. The new emperor was still young, and Peiji took charge of the government. 13 years ago, he was exiled to the northern military camp wearing shackles, and 13 years later he stood at the highest point on a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Then, he began to brutally clean up. The only one left of the 5 major families was the Song family. Laughter, the 4 families of King Zhu and Luo Xie should not give treasures but beauties. That is, jewelry is all worldly things, only people have feelings. I have also had the honor to see that lady, and I feel sorry for her beautiful jade appearance. No matter how hard-hearted the king of Bajan is, how can he withstand the lingering beauty? I heard that as long as the king of Bajan is in the house, he will not get off the bed of the lady. When I heard these words, my mother was praising Song Rushu. Good daughter, now you are the most noble woman in the world, even the queen mother can't compare to you. Song Rushu was not interested. What's the use of being honorable? My daughter hasn't seen the king for more than a month. My mother advised her to be patient, saying that he was currently dealing with government affairs, and that it would be fine when he was busy during this time. Song Rushu was worried that other women would replace her at this time. Mother smiled and said, and say that there is no at the moment, even if there is, your parents will get rid of it for you. Mother, you are so good to your daughter. Mother said, it's not good to you, it's good to anyone, you are a treasure brought by your mother. I looked at them in a daze because I didn't grow up next to my mother, so can I get rid of them at will like everyone else in her mouth? Song Rushu asked me about the condition of the body again, and my mother said that she had not dug it up again, but it had probably rotted into the nutrients of the pear tree. I looked down at my feet and felt that my mother was right. A few days ago, my feet began to become transparent, and I think I was starting to dissipate. I don't know why I stayed in the world, or how long I could stay. I don't know why I have been dead for so long, and I haven't seen a ghost to detain me. 2 days later, Peiji is finally coming back. Song Rushu dressed up carefully in front of the mirror. She admired herself in the mirror. Yeah, it was really the emperor who came here by himself in the past. Didn't Ali take the initiative to invite her? Yi-er replied, yes. Song Rushu said disdainfully, then she is really good at methods, I underestimated her in the past. Yi-er said again, lady, do you want to change into more elegant clothes? the second lady rarely wears such bright clothes. Song Rushu's face was cold. She is her, I am me, I can wear whatever I like. But Yi Er. Song Rushu turned to look at her. It's been 2 months, Song Ali is turning into bones, what is there to worry about? I thought she was smart a while ago, but now she can't figure it out. No, it's not that she can't figure it out, she's just eager to get rid of my shadow. No one wants to be someone else all the time. 13 in the evening, KG finally came. Dressed in a dark gold python robe, he also added preciousness to the killing. He was originally a noble child, but he was covered up by blood and hatred in the past. Song Rushu hurriedly got up to greet her. Her eyes were amazed and fascinated. Your Majesty, you are finally back. Song Rushu snuggled softly into Pei Ji's arms. Pei Ji is also agitated at the moment. In a high position, with a beauty in his arms, no man doesn't like it. He hugged Song Rushu's slender waist, and the sharpness in his eyes gradually dissipated, climbing up to a little gentleness. Well, I'm back. He responded to her in a dumb voice. The next moment he frowned again. Haven't you changed your incense yet? Song Rushu's eyes were a little evasive. Change? It's changed after you said you didn't like it last time. I never used it again. Pei Ji looked at her thoughtfully, didn't say anything in the end, had a meal with him, and then left. As soon as he left, Song Rushu tore off all the pearl and jade sachets on his body. I have used the pear fragrance for so long, and I almost pickled myself into the taste. Why does the emperor say that the taste is different? Year, are you lying to me? Don't you want your family to live? She asked sharply. Yi-er immediately knelt down. The slave would never dare to lie to the lady. Then why is this? Yi-er thought for a while. Maybe it's not the pear fragrance but the body fragrance. The slave heard that everyone has their own unique taste. Song Rushu said, what pear fragrance and body fragrance? Don't he look at his face? I am almost exactly the same as that disaster star now, I almost can't recognize myself. Song Rushu didn't know, and I didn't know, Pei Ji had never smelled anything in front of me before. I floated to Pei Ji's side. He sat in front of the desk. In the flickering candlelight, he looked at the inkstone on the case. Once, he was writing here, and I was studying ink on the side. Outside the window is bamboo. Whenever the wind blows, the sound of bamboo leaves is accompanied by the fragrance of ink. There is a different kind of tranquility, which is a moment I like very much. At this time, the wind was still blowing, and the bamboo leaves were still ringing, but I was no longer there. After a while, Zhou Fang came, and Pei Ji asked him, what did the Song family find? Zhou Fang replied, everything is as usual, nothing was found. Did the Lord notice anything? Pei Ji said coldly, her taste is still not hers. Zhou Fang scratched his head. Does the Lord mean the lady? The taste has changed. It's nothing, it's not a person. Pei Ji's eyes moved. He looked at the newly sent pears on the table, called someone over, and asked him to send a message to Song Rushu, saying that he wanted to eat pear cake tomorrow, and asked her to make one by herself. I made pear cake for him before. Does he want to tell by taste? He is really suspicious. I didn't expect him to really care. Maybe he couldn't tolerate being deceived. It doesn't matter, as long as my body can be dug up. The pear tree in the courtyard has been with me for 17 years, it absorbs the sun, moon, rain and dew to grow, and the fruit it bears is sweeter than my bitter life. It's so good, so pure, and it raised me like my grandmother. It is also a mother and should not be nourished by my carrion and dry bones. 14 After Song Rushu received the words, he became anxious. How can the king want to eat pear crisps, but I can't make them? Yi-er advised her not to worry. The slave saw that the second lady had done it several times, and knew how to do it. Song Rushu immediately asked her to write it out, and then went to the small kitchen to make it. She stayed up all night, wasted a lot of ingredients and finally steamed a pot. Yi-er took a bite. Almost, this is what it tastes like. Song Rushu breathed a sigh of relief, freshened up, and went to see Pei Ji with pear crisp. Pei Ji tasted a piece and swallowed it slowly. What does the monarch think tastes like? Song Rushu asked expectantly. I'm also looking forward to it, but to be honest, I don't know how the pear cake I made is. The first time I made pear cake for Peiji was half a year after marriage, and he came back from injury to recuperate. Grandma asked me to take care of it, and I said that the king didn't like me, and I was afraid that it would make him unhappy. Grandma smiled and said at that time, Ollie, the relationship between husband and wife is one step closer to him, and the son who protects the family and defends the country is not bad in his bones. You don't have the protection of your parents, and it's difficult for women in this world, but you can use what you have now to build your own home. I listened to my grandmother's words and went, Peiji really didn't like me, but he didn't drive me away. I bit the bullet and took care of him for half a month, helped him change his dressing and freshen him up, and the pear cake was made during that period. When he fell asleep, I saw that it was a pity that no one ate the pears in the house, so I picked them and steamed them to make them into pastries. I remember that day in the room full of pears, my hot face was covered in sweat, and he suddenly appeared and asked me what I was doing. I lied to him. I saw that you had no appetite for eating, so I wanted to make something appetizing for you. He smiled. Then did you poison it in? I don't dare. In order to prove it, I immediately took a bite and ate it, but it was hot and spit out again. At that moment, I thought he would kill me, but he didn't. And later he still ate pear cake, several pieces. Grandma smiled and said, Look, is it one step closer? After that, I made pear cakes every year, as if it had become my habit. 15 After Peiji ate the pear cake, he looked at Song Rushu for a long time. Song Rushu asked again, Your Majesty, how does it taste? Peiji's hand was placed on her slender neck, and such intimacy made Song Rushu's eyes happy. I was a little disappointed, and sure enough, my pear cake was no different. But the next moment, Peiji's hand tightened violently, and his eyes were full of murderous intent. Who are you? Where is Song Rushu? Song Rushu was pinched and couldn't breathe, her face was bloodshot and red. She broke Peiji's hand hard, but her strength undoubtedly shook the tree in front of Peiji. Your Majesty, I am Song Rushu, she said with difficulty. Peiji said word by word, Let me ask you again, where is Song Rushu? Zhou Feng and the others heard the voice come in, and asked Peiji to calm down. If the Lord has any doubts, he will interrogate him carefully, but if he kills the lady, he will not be able to ask anything. Zhou said loudly. Peiji slowly let go. Song Rushu fell to the ground and coughed violently, his eyes full of fear. But she still didn't admit it. She said she was Song Rushu. Indeed, she is Song Rushu, and she is not lying. Peiji looked at her condescendingly. Since you said you were her, then you told this king that you were so weak when you got married, and you didn't get better after taking a lot of tonics. How did you get healthy in just 7 days? And the taste of your body, why is the pear crisp you made so different from before? Only then did Song Rushu know that I was not in good health when I married her. I lived in that yard all year round, and my diet was in short supply, so my health could not be better. But I don't understand, except for the child avoiding medicine, when did I take the tonic? But I must have eaten it, otherwise I wouldn't have that child. Did Peiji ask someone to change the medicine? Did he ever want to have a child with me? Song Rushu shook his head and cried, Your Majesty, I don't know what you are talking about. Peiji sneered, You and she are indeed very similar, but you are not her, absolutely not. Zhou Feng, call Song Qing and his wife. He wanted his father and mother to identify him. But the answer is right, the method is wrong. 16 Father and mother came soon, they pretended to identify her, insisting that she was Song Rushu. They didn't lie either, so Peiji couldn't see the flaw. He didn't know that the Song family still had a daughter. That daughter has been married to him for 3 years, named Song Ollie. Zhou Feng and the others also persuaded, Lord, maybe you are too tired lately, go rest first. Peiji slowly calmed down, and he walked out. I followed him, and he walked in the moonlight. I can't see through this man. The fragrance of the body, whether it is healthy, or whether it is an ordinary pear crisp, does not actually prove that a person has been replaced. With his personality, he should not be so arbitrary. But he was so sure. Zhou Feng caught up with him from behind and asked, "My lord, what's wrong with you?" Pei Ji stopped and looked at him. "Do you remember the dream that this king said?" Zhou Feng thought for a while. "My lord, you mean that you dreamed of a lady and a child standing on the other side of the river?" "My lord, how can you call you a lady? She shouldn't be you." Pei Ji nodded slowly. "Zhou Feng, she is dead. In my life, it seems that I have never been able to keep anything. My parents are like this, my brothers and sisters are like this, So is it. Perhaps there is another child. What do you say people live for?" I floated in front of him, and from his eyes, I saw sadness. Zhou Feng denied it again and again. "No, no, my lord. Don't think too much, the lady must still be the queen. As for the child's imperial doctor, didn't she say it, there will be a letter this year?" Pei Ji didn't speak again. He thought for a while. "You go and find out immediately, when Mrs. Song gave birth, whether it was a single child or a twin. If it was a twin, then everything can make sense." After calming down, he quickly thought of this possibility. "But when I knew that my mother had only a few twins, the sorcerer had already traveled all over the world, and my grandmother had passed away, leaving only my parents and Yi Er to know. And my parents were prepared, and would not easily leave hidden dangers." 17 Sure enough, Zhou Feng found nothing, and the stable woman who delivered the baby and the maids and servants present have passed away one after another over the years. Maybe grandma was also killed by them. At that time, grandma's health was not very good, so she went back to her hometown to recuperate, but it didn't take long for news of her mother's death to come. I was so sad that I could hardly get out of bed, and then Yi Er was sent by my parents. Yi Er and other maids were also tortured, but no clues were asked. In the end, Yi Er committed suicide by striking a knife under the pretext that she couldn't stand the torture. Now the only people who know the whole story are my parents and Song Rushu. Song Rushu came to see Pei Ji wearing the clothes I often wore and combing my hair bun. She stopped crying, and stood there quietly. At this time she was most like me. Pei Ji also had a hint of trance. Song Rushu served tea and said some private things that only Pei Ji and I knew. These things happened after Yi Er came, and it seems that Yi Er's ability to peek is quite powerful. Pei Ji listened quietly and then asked, "Since you remember so clearly, do you remember what the king said to you on the day of the bridal chamber?" Song Rushu's eyes tightened. Maybe she thought that Pei Ji would believe it if she took the initiative to tell those private things, but she didn't expect Pei Ji to ask rhetorically. After such a long time, the concubine has forgotten. She whispered. "I still remember that he said, even if you are indeed pitiful, don't think that this king will pity you half." Pei Ji laughed coldly. "Forgotten? Then you go think about it, and tell the king again." Song Rushu immediately ran away. I heard Zhou Feng and them saying, "The character of the Lord has really changed, and he used to prefer to kill by mistake rather than let go. Because I care, I don't dare to act rashly." You said that when did the Lord start to care about the lady, and I didn't see it before. This marriage is sometimes moisturizing things silently, maybe it starts with a cup of tea and a bowl of rice, who knows. 18 My legs also began to disappear, leaving only my long dress floating around. I calculated based on the last dissipation, and it should be a few days before I all dissipated. Pei Ji's investigation also changed direction, and he asked people to find the nameless female corpse. See people alive, see corpses dead. He said that if he couldn't find my body, it would prove that I was still alive. I felt more and more that he really wanted to find me, not to prove that he had been deceived by the Song family. I kept telling him that I was buried under the pear tree. But he still couldn't hear me. I think he is also stupid sometimes, and he dreamed that I was under the pear tree, so why didn't he go to the Song house to dig? A few days later, a lot of unknown female corpses were found, as well as many male corpses and even babies. He took Song Rushu to identify me, but there was no me inside. When he passed the bodies of the children, he stopped. Most of those babies were female babies. My lord, what's wrong? Zhou Feng asked. He said softly, the child in the dream is a lovely girl. I touched my lower abdomen, and I couldn't feel anything. I never dreamed that the cute little girl, I was afraid that I would never see her face. She came when I didn't know it and died with me when I didn't know. I don't seem to have kept anything in the past 20 years. 19 As I was about to leave, layers of dark clouds fell from the sky, and it was about to rain heavily. I also became more and more transparent, and I thought I was about to disperse. I still regret thinking that the person who killed me is still at large, and that I will be buried in the dark forever. But I can't do anything. I can't turn into a ghost to ask for my life as written in the notebook. I don't have magic, and I can't even drift away. I don't want to hide in Pei Ji's shadow anymore. I float into the air. I want to see this Tiandu city again that I want to see, but have never been able to see well. When I was with Pei Ji for the last time before I died, I saw that he was in a good mood, and while tying his hair, I asked him if he could let me go out of the house on my birthday. At that time, he said no. Later, before leaving, he said that he would talk about it when he came back. I knew he was relieved and waited for him to come back with anticipation, although the last one was empty. But it's not too late, let's take today as my birthday. Today's Song Ali, 20 years old, although he is a starving ghost, has seen the prosperity of this world. I was looking at the Tiandu city under Pei Ji, when suddenly there was a commotion. I looked down and saw a disabled beggar holding Song Risha's leg, shouting something in his mouth, with endless resentment on his face. Song Risha panicked and asked someone to drag the beggar away, but Pei Ji stopped him with interest. Soon figured out the situation. This disabled beggar was a scholar who married Song Rishu. After Song Risha saw Pei Ji again that year and couldn't forget it, she killed Lunyan first, but she didn't expect Lunyan to die. Then he begged all the way to Tiandu city, but he didn't know which house Song Risha belonged to, so he could only look for it all over the street, and he was finally found today. At this point, the truth was revealed. 20 The rainstorm poured down, and Song Risha knelt in the rain, and said to Pei Ji, back then, I really should have married the king, and I swore to the heavens that I did not lie. Song Ali is a disaster star, she is not worthy of marrying the king, and now everything just returns to its original place. I was born exactly like her, I will serve the emperor better than her, and the emperor will definitely like the concubine. Pei Ji stood under the umbrella and muttered, so her name is Song Ali. Then he squatted down, looked at Song Rishu, and smiled coldly, since you are willing to serve this king, why did you not want to marry back then, and now you want to marry? Because. Song Rishu trembled and couldn't speak. Pei Ji said, because you are afraid of death, because what you can't get is the best, right? Song Rishu whimpered, it was mine. Father and mother also interceded for Song Rishu, saying that all the mistakes were their fault. Pei Ji asked them, you can hide Song Ali and hide her in a place where the king can't find her to live, why do you want to kill her? Dad said, she is a disaster star and deserves to die. Mother, if she is found by the emperor, won't Rishu be driven back? When I heard this, I wasn't very sad. My father has many children and doesn't care about my life or death. My mother personally took Song Rishu, and everyone said that Song Rishu was a lucky star, so she became more and more inclined to Song Rishu. Pei Ji finally asked them, where is her body? The three of them refused to say. I know that if they think I am dead, Pei Ji will not necessarily kill them. But if Pei Ji knew that I died with his bones and blood, he would definitely not let them go. Pei Ji suddenly realized something, he looked up in the direction of the Song mansion, and then rode forward. He walked all the way to the pear tree, where I was buried. This pear tree has no results this year, not a single one. Pei Ji threw away his umbrella and dug it up with his bare hands, and Zhou Feng and the others immediately stepped forward to help. Soon, I saw my body. I haven't turned into bones yet, and I even feel like I'm asleep, probably because I died of poisoning, so my body is difficult to decompose. I saw my stomach cut open, and it was terrifying. The people around me looked away, and some even vomited. But Peiji was not afraid. He took off his coat to cover my body, and then hugged me. In the heavy rain, I felt like he was crying, but maybe it was just rain. Lord, what will they do? Zhou Feng pointed to his parents and Song Rushu and asked. Peiji walked up to Song Rushu and stretched out his hand to crush her neck little by little. Song Rushu struggled desperately, and finally slowly tilted his head to the side without moving. Disaster Star helped you deal with it, he said to his parents. Then he ordered Zhou Feng, as long as they don't die, you can do as you please. Zhou Feng nodded, but his parents became frightened and begged Peiji to kill them directly. I have seen Zhou Feng deal with assassins, and after 72 punishments, people can still breathe. Pigs and dogs are worse alive than dead. 21 The rain stopped, and the sun sprinkled all over Tiandu City. I said thank you in Peiji's ear, and asked him to cremate me, and not bury me in the ground. Although he couldn't hear it either. I watched him hug me and walk farther and farther, and finally I shouted, Peiji, if you fall in love with someone again in the future, don't scare her again, tell her earlier. A gust of wind blew, and the copper bell in the corner of the eaves of the small building rang crisply. I saw Peiji suddenly turn around. He looked at me in the wind, but in the end he didn't see me. I turned around and floated under the pear tree, and saw the pear tree full of flowers. A cute girl was sitting under the pear tree, and I asked who she was waiting for. The girl said in a milky voice, Mother, I'm waiting for you. I was stunned. Her eyebrows and eyes were a bit like me, and a little like Peiji. Maybe this is me and his child. Or maybe this is me. The little me who sits under the pear tree every day, looking forward to my mother's coming. I smiled at her and took her hand. I'm here, let's go. She immediately held my hand tightly. Mother, where are we going? I said, the sky is big, you can go anywhere. 22 The pear blossoms bloomed in large patches, and I led the little girl to see a beautiful river. Many people were lining up to walk forward. In front of the line was a place full of warmth. Just as I was approaching the warmth, I heard Peiji's voice, Song Ollie. I turned around and saw him walking on the river. He was wearing the ink-colored robe I like to see him wearing, and his hair was flying in the wind. He came to me and the child and said, I called you before, but you ignored me, but it turned out that the name was wrong. Ollie, fortunately, I wasn't late. I thought he had fallen into a dream again, thinking that his dream had crossed the boundary. But I saw countless soldiers crossing the river behind him, drenched in blood and missing arms and legs. It turned out that he had died in battle. Then he picked up the child and naturally took my hand. Let's go, my parents are waiting for us in front. I looked forward and saw many people waving at us. I also saw my grandmother, but she was angry with me. Ollie, I have asked the gods and Buddhas for so long to ensure your longevity. Why did you come so early? I finally remembered. The moment I died, I heard a voice, give her a little more time. Her grandmother begged me to bless her every day before her death, so that she could see that her great revenge would be avenged. It turned out that I could not lose my soul, not because Song Rishi used any means. It was my grandmother who asked for me during her lifetime. Mother, I called her. She is the one who raised me, she is the one who named me, she is the one who taught me to live and live, she is the one who asks God and Buddha to bless me, and she is the one who waits for me. She is my mother. Grandma cried and then laughed again. The wind picked up again, and the pear blossoms danced with the wind like snow. The grass grows and the warblers fly around, and the moon is white and the wind is clear with pear blossoms. Ollie, let's go.